My daughters need a mother, and you need a home. The widowed cowboy made an offer to the outcast woman. Windswept dunes stretched as far as the eye could see, golden and unyielding, hiding dangers both natural and alien. Human colonies here were few, scattered and struggling. It was a frontier world, a place where only the strong, clever, and brave could survive. Elena Maris trudged through the sand, her boots leaving deep imprints that the wind quickly tried to erase. Her work rover had broken down 2 days ago, leaving her stranded with only limited supplies. Normally, she would have preferred solitude. Solara 9 had never been kind to those who didn't fit neatly into the colony's rigid expectations, and Alina had learned long ago that independence was safer than companionship. Yet even the fiercest lone wolf sometimes needed a shelter, and today a small cluster of structures appeared on the horizon, Caleb Thorne's homestead. She had heard of him, the widowed cowboy who had built a life here with his 2 daughters. Some whispered he was gruff, stubborn, but fair. Perhaps he would offer water, perhaps he wouldn't, but she had little choice. As she approached, the scent of dry earth and metal reached her. Caleb was outside, mending a solar collector, sweat glinting on his brow. He looked up as her rover hissed and coughed its last spark. "Trouble?" he asked, his voice rough but not unkind. Elena hesitated, gripping the handle of her tool case. "Rover 's dead. I need water, and maybe shelter for the night." He studied her for a long moment. Something in the set of her shoulders, the way she carried herself, told him she was no ordinary wanderer. Most people in the colony would have begged or bargained. She hadn't. "All right," Caleb said finally, gesturing toward the nearest building. "You can stay. But don't touch anything you don't need to." Elena nodded, relief washing over her. She followed him across the sandy yard, noticing the simplicity of the homestead. It was sturdy, built for survival rather than comfort, but well kept. A couple of wind turbines creaked above, spinning lazily, and a small garden fought against the desert soil. Inside, the house smelled faintly of oil, dust, and something sweet, baking perhaps, or the faint scent of the girls. 2 little figures peeked from behind a doorway. They were the daughters, one with dark curls like her father's and one with bright golden hair that seemed almost impossible under the harsh suns. "Papa, who's that?" the dark-haired girl asked. "Someone who's lost," Caleb said simply. "She might stay a while." Elena offered a small nod, unsure how to react to their wide, curious eyes. She had spent so long alone that human company felt unfamiliar, almost awkward. Dinner was simple: roasted root vegetables, dried meat, and water from the purification unit. The girls talked quietly at the table, asking questions Elena answered carefully. Caleb watched her, noticing the way she answered with precision, patience, and intelligence. It was rare to meet someone so capable, yet so reserved. After the meal, Elena repaired her rover as best she could. The tools Caleb offered were crude compared to her own, but she managed to jury-rig a solution that would get her a little closer to mobility. As she worked, Caleb's daughters peeked curiously, asking about sparks, circuits, and engines. Elena felt a warmth she hadn't known in years. "You've got magic hands," the golden-haired girl said, wide-eyed. "Can you fix anything?" Elena smiled faintly. "Almost anything," she admitted. It was strange to hear her words sound soft, almost tender. Night fell quickly on Solara 9. The twin moons cast pale light over the desert, and the stars above were so bright it was impossible not to feel small. Elena lay on the cot Caleb offered, thinking of her solitary years, the planets she had scavenged, the dangers she had survived alone. Yet tonight there was something different, a sense of shelter, a sense of safety. The next morning, the harsh desert wind returned. Caleb's homestead was already alive with activity. The girls were up early, tending to small chores and running errands. Caleb himself prepared to ride out to check the water pumps scattered across the property. "Stay inside today," he told Elena. "The dunes are rough and the wind carries more than sand." Alina didn't argue. Instead, she set to work on improving the homestead's solar array, her mind already planning ways to make it more efficient. As she worked, she heard the distant roar of engines. At first, she thought it might be one of the colony patrols, but the sound was uneven, alien almost. Caleb returned tense. "We've got company, could be traders or could be trouble." Alina stood beside him, wiping sand from her sleeves. "Do you need help?" He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "If you want to learn fast, follow me." The next hour was a blur of preparation. Humans were clever, they adapted quickly. Alina watched as Caleb's daughters helped in small ways, their movements careful but determined. Then from the dunes, the source of the noise appeared. Strange, spider-like vehicles moving with unnatural speed. The Varkans had arrived, a predatory species known to raid settlements for resources. Alina felt a surge of adrenaline. For years she had survived alone, relying on her wits and her hands. Now she would do so alongside humans who had welcomed her without judgment. The Varkans approached, but Caleb and Alina had prepared. Using old drones, traps, and jury-rigged defenses, they created obstacles. Alina's quick thinking and engineering skills made the difference, confusing the Varkans long enough for the girls to retreat inside. By nightfall, the Varkans had withdrawn, frustrated by human ingenuity and resilience. The homestead was intact, though sand and dust covered every surface. Caleb clapped Alina on the shoulder. "You're something else," he said quietly. "You could stay here if you want. We could use someone like you." Alina looked at the homestead, the little girls peeking from the doorway, their eyes filled with trust. For the first time in years, she felt the pull of belonging. The desert outside was harsh and unforgiving, but inside these walls, there was warmth, safety, and perhaps a chance for something more. That night, Alina didn't sleep in the cot. She stayed near the small fire pit, thinking, planning, remembering all the planets she had roamed and the dangers she had faced. She realized that survival was not just about solitude and skill, it was about connection, about having a place to belong. The twin moons cast their pale light over the homestead as she finally allowed herself to feel something she had buried long ago: hope. For the first time in a long time, Alina wasn't just surviving, she was part of something. And on Solara 9, amid the sand, the sun, and the stars, that was more than enough. The morning on Solara 9 came like a knife across the dunes, sharp, bright, and unforgiving. The twin suns rose slowly over the horizon, painting the desert in gold and bronze. Wind swept across the sands, carrying fine particles that made eyes water and skin sting. Yet, life on the homestead went on. Alina woke early, as she always did, her mind restless. The events of the previous day, the Varkan's sudden appearance, the quick defense, the feel of working alongside the girls and Caleb lingered in her mind. She had survived countless dangers alone, but this was different. Here, humans trusted her. She realized that her skills were not just tools for survival, they could be a shield for others. The homestead was alive with activity. Caleb's daughters ran between buildings, carrying tools and checking the water filters. Even in their small forms, they had learned quickly, an instinct for survival that mirrored the adults around them. Caleb himself moved like a man shaped by harsh worlds, his gaze steady, muscles tense, always alert. "Alina," he called, approaching her with a mug of water. "You slept near the fire pit again. Don't tell me you can't handle a cot." She took the mug, grateful. "I sleep better near something real. The wind and the stars, they remind me where I am and who I'm with." Caleb studied her silently for a moment, as if weighing her words. He said nothing more, simply turning toward the barn. Alina followed, curious. "Today," Caleb said, "we prepare. The Varkans will come back, they always do. We need every trap, every defense ready. Can you help?" Alina nodded. For the first time in years, she wasn't just surviving, she was contributing to a cause bigger than herself. She moved to the workshop, opening her toolkit, her fingers nimble and precise. Caleb's equipment was functional but crude. With a few adjustments, she enhanced sensors, repaired solar drones, and fortified the homestead's defenses. The daughters watched her closely, their eyes wide with fascination. The dark-haired girl, Leela, approached cautiously. "Can you really make them leave?" she asked. Alina smiled softly. "I can try, but we need more than luck. We need plans, clever traps, and quick thinking. That's what humans do best." The golden-haired girl, Mina, whispered, "I want to help too." Alina crouched to meet her eyes. You can help in small ways. Watch, learn, and follow instructions. That is the smartest way to help in danger." By mid-morning, the homestead hummed with preparation. Caleb organized the daughters and the few farmhands into teams, each responsible for specific tasks. Alina oversaw the fortifications, adjusting sensors and reinforcing weak points. She noticed that Caleb's leadership was calm, deliberate, and patient, yet every command carried weight. He trusted people, but only after careful observation, exactly the way Alina herself operated. The hours passed and tension grew. The desert heat rose, pressing down on everyone. Shadows shifted across the dunes, and a faint vibration in the ground signaled approaching machinery. "They're coming," Caleb said simply, his voice low. Alina felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. Her mind moved quickly, calculating, planning. Using old communications arrays, she scanned the horizon, picking up the Varkins' heat signatures. Their numbers were small, perhaps a scouting party, but deadly. The spider-like vehicles advanced slowly, their movement deliberate, their alien chatter harsh and grating to human ears. "Everyone ready?" Caleb asked. Alina nodded, checking each trap one last time. "Yes, and we'll make them regret it." The first Varkin scout reached the outer defenses. Alina watched as Caleb's daughters triggered small warning devices, creating noises that confused the attackers. Then came the drones, haphazard machines retrofitted for defense. Alina controlled them with precision, directing them toward the Varkins' blind spots. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, and the desert rang with the clash of ingenuity versus alien strength. The Varkins moved fast, but humans were unpredictable. Alina guided drones to block narrow paths, then set up traps that the Varkins couldn't anticipate. One of their vehicles toppled in a pit of spiked metal bars she had buried beneath the sand. Another was ensnared in cables rigged to pull it off balance. The Varkins hissed in frustration, clearly unprepared for the ingenuity of these humans. Caleb fought alongside Alina, using a mix of human skill, brute strength, and sharpshooting. Every move he made complemented her strategies, a silent dance of teamwork forged by necessity. The daughters huddled safely behind barricades, watching, learning, their small faces filled with awe and fear. After an hour, the Varkins began to retreat, frustrated and injured. Humans had survived yet another attack through quick thinking, adaptability, and the willingness to work together. Alina wiped sweat from her brow, breathing heavily. Caleb approached, a faint smile on his rugged face. "You did good. They won't forget this. Neither will I." Alina felt a strange warmth, praise from someone who understood the stakes. It was rare. She nodded, hesitant but proud. "We made it together." The daughters rushed forward, hugging her tightly. Leela whispered, "You saved us." Mina added, "You're like magic." Alina laughed softly, the sound unfamiliar but comforting. "No magic, just humans being clever, that's all." As evening fell, the desert cooled. The homestead glowed under the twin moons, a small island of light in the endless sand. Caleb and Alina sat near the fire pit, watching the daughters play quietly nearby. "You didn't have to stay," Caleb said quietly. "After the storm, after the attack, you could have left." Alina looked into the fire, thinking of all the planets she had crossed, the dangers she had faced, the years she had spent alone. "I didn't want to leave," she admitted. "Not this time, not here." Caleb's eyes softened. "You know, my daughters, they need a mother figure. But I also think maybe you need a home." Alina blinked, unprepared for such honesty. She had spent years running, surviving, hiding. A home, a family, it felt impossible, almost foreign. Yet looking at the children's trusting faces, at Caleb's steady gaze, she felt a pull she had never felt before, a desire to belong. The desert was quiet now, except for the soft whisper of wind over sand. For the first time in her life, Alina allowed herself to imagine a life not defined by survival alone. A life where she mattered, where her skills were valued, where she could protect and nurture instead of merely escape. The next day, she helped Caleb check the water pumps and repair the solar arrays. The daughters followed, asking endless questions about circuits, engines, and survival tactics. Alina explained patiently, showing them how to test systems, mend broken parts, and improvise solutions. The girls learned quickly, their natural curiosity fueled by a thirst for knowledge and a trust in her guidance. By nightfall, the homestead was functioning better than it had in months. The traps were reset, the defenses reinforced, and Alina felt a quiet satisfaction. She was no longer a lone scavenger. She was part of something, something human, resilient, and enduring. Caleb approached once more. "You've done more than I imagined, and if you want, you can stay, not just for now, not just to help. You could stay for good." Alina felt a lump in her throat. She had never allowed herself to hope. But the warmth in her chest, the trust in the daughter's eyes, the quiet strength of Caleb beside her, it was enough. She nodded slowly. "I'll stay, but on my terms. I need to know I can still do what I need to survive." Caleb smiled. "You'll always have freedom here. But now you'll also have family." The twin moons cast their silver light across the homestead. The desert was still harsh, still unforgiving. But within these walls, humans had proven once again that ingenuity, courage, and trust could overcome the most daunting challenges. And for Alina, that knowledge was more valuable than any survival skill she had ever mastered. Tonight, she would sleep not on a cot in silence, but near the fire, surrounded by laughter, warmth, and the strange, wonderful possibility of belonging. For the first time in years, the stars above seemed less lonely. The morning sun rose harshly over Solara 9, bathing the desert homestead in brilliant gold. The twin suns glared down without mercy, but the air carried a strange calm, almost deceptive. Alina stood outside the workshop, her hands covered in grease, her mind racing. The previous Varkan attack had been a warning, a test of human ingenuity, but she knew it would not be the last. Caleb rode past her, mounted on a sturdy desert horse, his eyes scanning the dunes. "We've seen small scouts before. This time they might bring more," he said, his voice calm but tense. "They don't forget human settlements, not ones that fight back." Alina nodded silently. She had seen enough of alien strategies during her scavenging missions to know that this would escalate. The Varkans were cunning, relentless, and dangerous. Every day she had survived alone had prepared her for such threats, but never with people relying on her, trusting her skills. The daughters emerged from the homestead, clutching small toolkits Caleb had given them. Leela looked nervous but determined, while Mina bounced with restless energy. "Papa says we have to help," Leela said, her small voice trembling. "Do you think we can?" Alina knelt beside them. "You can, but you must be smart. Follow instructions carefully. That is how humans survive against stronger enemies." Mina's golden hair glinted in the sunlight. "We want to help like you," Alina smiled faintly. She had never had anyone rely on her before, and the feeling was strange, but not unpleasant. "Then watch closely and learn. You may save the homestead one day." The day passed with preparation. Alina reinforced the solar drones, installed new sensors on the fences, and optimized the water defenses. Caleb trained the daughters in basic alert systems, teaching them how to signal danger and operate simple mechanical traps. By late afternoon, the distant rumble began, the telltale vibration of approaching vehicles. Alina crouched behind a barricade, scanning the dunes. The Varkans had returned, this time in larger numbers. Their spider-like vehicles moved with terrifying speed, their alien forms gleaming in the sun. Caleb's hand rested briefly on her shoulder. "Remember, we fight smart, not just hard." Alina nodded. She had always survived alone through intelligence, improvisation, and courage. But today, she had to survive for more than herself. For the first time, her choices affected others: Caleb, the daughters, the homestead, and perhaps the future of the human colony on Solara 9. The first Varkan vehicles reached the outer perimeter. Alina activated her newly rigged traps. Small automated spikes shot up from the sand, catching the legs of the nearest machines. Drones buzzed overhead, dropping nets and disorienting the invaders. The Varkans hissed and screeched, clearly frustrated by these unexpected defenses. Caleb took position near the main gate, rifle in hand. Alina moved swiftly between barricades, guiding drones, activating sensors, and reinforcing traps on the fly. Every action she took demonstrated human ingenuity and adaptability, traits that the alien attackers had underestimated. The daughters watched from a safe distance, their faces pale but focused. Leela whispered to Mina, "She's amazing. She knows exactly what to do." Mina nodded, her eyes wide. "She's like magic." Alina heard them and smiled, though there was no time for sentimentality. The Varkans were clever, and one of the larger vehicles managed to break through the outer traps. Its metallic legs struck the ground with crushing force, sending sand flying. Alina's mind raced. She could retreat as she always had, relying on speed and stealth to survive alone. But here, retreat was not an option. Caleb and the daughters needed her. The homestead needed her. With a deep breath, she made her choice. She would fight not just for herself, but for these humans who had offered her trust, kindness, and perhaps a home. She activated the central drone swarm, sending dozens of machines to intercept the larger Varkan vehicles. Sparks flew as drones collided with alien metal. She guided them skillfully, exploiting weaknesses she had observed in the Varkan's design. One of the daughters' small warning devices triggered a false path, luring the remaining enemies into a trap she had constructed earlier. Caleb fought alongside her, using sharpshooting and brute strength to delay the Varkan's advance. The two of them moved in perfect coordination, instinctively knowing where the other would act. The daughters, watching from behind barricades, mimicked their actions in miniature ways, signaling and managing small alerts that kept the homestead one step ahead. The battle raged for hours. The sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the dunes. Alina's arms ached from constant work, her mind screamed with calculations and strategies, but she did not stop. Survival was not enough today. Humanity's ingenuity, courage, and adaptability would be tested, and she would not fail. Finally, the Varkans began to retreat. Their vehicles, damaged and confused, withdrew back into the desert, leaving behind tracks, debris, and the faint scent of scorched metal. Alina collapsed against a barricade, breathing heavily, sweat and dust coating her face. Caleb joined her, checking that she was unharmed. The daughters ran to her, hugging her tightly. "You saved us," Leela whispered, her voice trembling with awe. Mina hugged her leg, tears in her eyes. "You're our hero." Alina smiled faintly, feeling an unfamiliar warmth. "No, just humans being smart," she said softly, but inside she knew it was more. It was courage, compassion, and the choice to fight for others, a choice she had never made before. That night, the homestead was quiet, but the atmosphere was different. The attacks had tested them, bonded them, and revealed what they could achieve together. Caleb sat near the fire, the girls asleep in the corner and Alina beside him. "You did more than I imagined," Caleb said quietly. "You could have run, as you always do, but you stayed, and because of that we survived." Alina stared into the fire. "I realized something today. I can survive alone, yes, but survival is empty without purpose, without people who trust you, without a home." Caleb nodded slowly. I think you've found something here, something worth staying for. Elena allowed herself a rare smile. The stars above the desert seemed brighter, the twin moons reflecting in her eyes. She realized that for the first time in years, she wasn't just surviving, she was choosing to live. The next morning, Alina helped Caleb repair the homestead's defenses, clean equipment, and train the daughters. Every small action reinforced her connection to this place, this family, and the future they were building together. The Varkans might return, more prepared, more dangerous. But Alina no longer feared them alone. She had allies, trust, and a purpose. And that was something she had never known in the lonely years of scavenging across desolate planets. As she adjusted the final sensor, Caleb appeared beside her, the sun glinting off his worn hat. "I want you to know something," he said, his voice steady. "I didn't just offer you shelter before. I offered you a home, and if you stay, we'll face whatever comes next together." Alina looked at the homestead, at the girls who trusted her implicitly, and at Caleb's steady gaze. For the first time, she felt a deep, unshakable certainty. She nodded slowly. "I'll stay, not just for now, but for good." The desert wind swept across the dunes, carrying the faint scent of sand and distant metal. The battle was over for now, but the real journey had just begun. Elena had chosen a path she had never dared to take before. A life with others, a life where her skills mattered not just for survival, but for love, family, and hope. And under the twin moons of Solara 9, surrounded by warmth and light in a world of harsh deserts, she finally understood that being human was more than survival. It was connection, courage, and the willingness to fight for those you cared for. For Alina Maris, the Outcast engineer, the choice had been made. She would no longer run. She would no longer hide. She would stay, and she would fight, not just for herself, but for her new home. The morning on Solara 9 was cooler than the previous days. A soft wind swept across the dunes, carrying the faint scent of dust and sun-baked metal. The homestead was alive with quiet activity. Caleb moved among the solar panels and water tanks, checking each one for damage after the last skirmish with the Varkans. Alina worked beside him, adjusting sensors and repairing small mechanical traps. The daughters, Leela and Mina, were busy collecting small tools and components, eager to help in any way they could. It had been several days since the Varkans' last attack. During that time, Alina had grown into her new role at the homestead. No longer just a stranger seeking shelter, she was now an integral part of daily life. She helped maintain the homestead's defenses, taught the daughters about machines and survival, and planned for possible future threats. Every action was a small victory, reinforcing her place in this new family and in the colony. "Papa, look!" Mina shouted, holding up a small circuit board she had assembled under Alina's supervision. "I did it." Alina crouched beside her, examining the board carefully. "Yes, you did. That's excellent work, Mina. You've made it stronger than before." "That's human ingenuity right there." Leela, standing nearby, smiled proudly. "We're helping too, just like you, Alina." Alina's chest swelled with a quiet pride. Teaching the girls reminded her of the importance of knowledge, creativity, and patience. Humans were remarkable because they could adapt, learn, and teach each other. And here, in this harsh desert world, that adaptability was survival itself. Caleb approached, carrying a crate of water filtration components. "You've been working hard," he said to Alina. "But I think it's time we start thinking beyond defense. The Varkans will keep coming, and if we only react, we'll never be safe." Alina nodded, wiping sweat from her brow. "You're right. We need a plan, not just defenses. We need to predict, prepare, and outsmart them before they reach us." Together, they began designing improvements for the homestead. Alina suggested reinforced walls and hidden escape routes. Caleb proposed mobile traps that could be moved to confuse invaders. The daughters contributed in their own way, testing small devices and learning the basics of engineering. The homestead became a living testament to human creativity, resilience, and cooperation. By mid-afternoon, the desert sky darkened with clouds, unusual for Solara 9. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of distant storms. Alina paused, watching the horizon. Something about the change in weather made her uneasy. She checked the sensors and realized the Varkans were moving again, likely tracking them. "They're coming," she said quietly. Caleb nodded. "Good, let them come, we'll be ready." When the Varkans arrived, they were more organized than before. Their vehicles were larger, faster, and equipped with new weaponry. They had clearly learned from their previous encounter. But humans had also learned, and humans were unpredictable. Alina activated a network of traps, drones, and automated defenses. The daughters were positioned in safe spots, operating simple alert devices under her guidance. Caleb directed the defense with calm authority, coordinating with Alina as if they had been fighting together for years. The first wave of Varkan vehicles reached the outer perimeter. Traps activated, drones attacked, and warning devices distracted the aliens. Despite their technological superiority, the Varkans struggled to adapt to the humans' ingenuity. One vehicle fell into a pit camouflaged with sand. Another was entangled in cables designed to snap under pressure. Alina moved swiftly, guiding drones and activating defenses. She realized that this battle was not just about survival. It was about teaching the girls, showing them that humans could overcome challenges through intelligence, cooperation, and courage. Every trap and maneuver was a lesson, every victory a demonstration of what humans could accomplish together. The daughters watched closely, their fear tempered by trust and admiration. Leela whispered, "She's amazing. Look how she moves." Mina nodded. "She's like magic." But real magic, the kind humans make with their brains. The Varkans advanced further, attempting to breach the inner perimeter. Caleb and Alina worked together, anticipating the aliens' movements and setting traps ahead of them. Using a combination of mechanical ingenuity and quick thinking, they turned the Varkans' strength against them. One of the larger vehicles toppled into a hidden trench, immobilized by reinforced cables. Another was ensnared by a net deployed from a drone, leaving the remaining Varkans disoriented and frustrated. Finally, after hours of tension and careful strategy, the Varkans retreated. The desert was quiet again, the only sound the wind over the dunes and the distant hum of repaired machinery. The homestead had survived, stronger and better prepared than before. Alina leaned against a barricade, exhausted but satisfied. Caleb joined her, his eyes softening as he looked at her. "You did more than anyone could have expected," he said quietly. "Not just fighting, but teaching, guiding, making this place a home." Alina looked at the girls now playing nearby and felt a warmth she had never experienced alone. "I didn't just save the homestead," she said softly. "I helped build something that matters, and that matters to me." Caleb nodded, a rare smile appearing on his face. "You're part of this family now, Alina, and I think you'll stay, won't you?" She met his gaze, thinking of the years she had spent alone, running, surviving, hiding. Those years had taught her self-reliance, but they had also shown her the emptiness of isolation. Here she had purpose, trust, and belonging. She nodded slowly. "Yes, I'll stay." The next days were filled with quiet rebuilding. Alina, Caleb, and the daughters worked together to repair any damage from the Varkan attack, strengthen defenses, and prepare for possible future threats. They taught each other, learned from mistakes, and celebrated small victories. The homestead transformed from a simple shelter into a thriving hub of human ingenuity, resilience, and hope. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the desert, Caleb and Alina sat by the fire pit. The daughters were asleep inside, exhausted but happy. "You've changed this place," Caleb said quietly. "Made it more than just a homestead, made it a home." Alina stared into the fire, the glow reflecting in her eyes. "A home, that's something I never thought I'd have again. But now it feels right. I feel complete here. Not alone. Caleb reached for her hand, a gentle gesture of trust and connection. You're part of this family now, and together we can face anything. Solara 9, the Varkans, whatever comes next. Alina squeezed his hand, a quiet smile forming. Yes, together. The desert stretched endlessly beyond the homestead, harsh and unforgiving. But within the walls of their home, humans had proven that ingenuity, courage, and cooperation could overcome the most daunting challenges. Alina had chosen not just to survive, but to live, to protect, and to build a future alongside those who trusted her. The twins' laughter echoed faintly from inside, and Alina realized that family was not just about blood. It was about connection, trust, and shared purpose. She had found hers here in the heart of the desert under the twin suns and moons of Solara 9. The Varkans might return, stronger and more determined. But Alina, Caleb, and the daughters were ready. Together they would face whatever came, using brains, courage, and unity to prevail. And for the first time, Alina felt the true meaning of belonging. She was no longer an outcast, no longer alone. She was part of something greater, a family forged not by chance, but by choice, courage, and the enduring human spirit. The twin moons cast silver light across the dunes, illuminating the homestead that had been transformed into a symbol of human resilience. Here, in this harsh desert world, life could be harsh, dangerous, and unpredictable. Yet, humanity's ingenuity and determination shone brighter than the stars above. Alina Maris, once an outcast wandering from planet to planet, had found her place. And with Caleb and the daughters by her side, she knew that together, humans could survive, thrive, and build a future no alien threat could destroy. The desert wind whispered over the dunes, carrying with it the promise of new challenges, new discoveries, and a life filled with connection, courage, and hope. And Alina welcomed it, ready to face whatever came next, not as a lone survivor, but as part of a family, and part of something truly human. The sun rose slowly over Solara 9, painting the desert in shades of gold and bronze. The twin moons had disappeared beyond the horizon, leaving the sky bright and clear. But the calm of the morning was deceptive. Alina Mari stood atop a ridge, scanning the dunes through a set of binoculars. Her heart beat steadily, trained by years of survival and sharpened by recent battles. More tracks, she said quietly, lowering the binoculars. The Varkans had returned, larger in number than before, their spider-like vehicles moving with calculated precision across the desert. They were no longer scouts. This was an assault. Caleb appeared at her side, his face calm but eyes sharp. I was afraid of that, he said. We've prepared, but they'll test everything we've built. Are you ready? Alina nodded, her fingers brushing the edge of the binoculars. We're ready. Humans always find a way. The daughters, Leela and Mina, peeked from behind a barricade. Leela whispered nervously, Do you think we can stop them? Alina crouched beside her. We can. Humans are clever and we fight smart. If we stay calm, work together, and use everything we've learned, we will win. Trust in what you've been taught and trust each other. The Varkans advanced swiftly, their larger vehicles and numbers imposing. But the homestead had transformed from a simple shelter into a fortress of human ingenuity. Alina had installed hidden pits, automated traps, reinforced walls, and drones that moved with speed and precision. Every strategy Caleb and she had devised was ready to be tested. The first Varkan vehicle reached the outer perimeter and was immediately ensnared by a pit trap. The others reacted quickly, but Alina anticipated their moves. She activated drones that swooped down to entangle wheels and disrupt the vehicle's balance. Sparks flew as metal clashed, and the desert filled with the sounds of struggle. Caleb moved alongside her, firing carefully and efficiently at vulnerable spots on the Varkan machines. The daughters, now positioned safely behind reinforced barriers, monitored sensors, and alerted the team to movements the adults could not see. Every action was precise, coordinated, and decisive. Alina felt a surge of exhilaration. She had survived alone for years, but this was different. This was not just survival, it was defending life, home, and family. She had chosen to be part of something greater, and now that choice was being tested. The Varkans were relentless. One vehicle broke free of the outer traps and charged toward the main gate. Alina acted quickly, triggering a series of hidden nets and barriers that slowed it down. Caleb shot at weak points, and the drones harried the vehicle from above. Together, their movements were seamless, a demonstration of human ingenuity and adaptability. The daughters watched wide-eyed but not afraid. Leela whispered, "They're really smart, just like Alina taught us." Mina nodded. "We can do this too, someday." Hours passed in a blur of motion and tension. The Varkans tried every tactic they could, but human unpredictability and clever engineering kept them at bay. Alina and Caleb anticipated their strategies, countered their movements, and turned every advantage into a trap for the attackers. Finally, the largest Varkan vehicle toppled into a hidden trench, immobilized and vulnerable. The remaining machines hesitated, their alien instincts sensing danger. Then, one by one, they retreated, leaving the desert silent once more. The homestead had survived, and more than that, it had triumphed. Alina sank to her knees, exhausted but triumphant. Caleb joined her, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "We did it," he said quietly. "They won't bother this place for a long time. We did it together." The daughters ran to her, hugging her tightly. "You saved us," Mina exclaimed. "You were amazing," Leela added, eyes shining with admiration. Alina smiled, a rare, full smile that carried warmth, pride, and relief. "We all did it. That's what humans do. We survive, we fight, and we protect what matters." Night fell over the desert, and the twin moons rose once more, casting silver light across the dunes. The homestead glowed warmly against the vast wilderness, a beacon of resilience, ingenuity, and hope. For days afterward, the family worked together to repair the damage, reinforce defenses, and restore order. The daughters learned quickly, eager to apply what they had seen in the battle. Alina took time to teach them more than mechanics and tactics. She taught patience, observation, and strategy. She taught them that intelligence, creativity, and courage were as important as strength. One evening, Caleb and Alina sat by the fire pit, the girls asleep inside. The twin moons shone brightly, reflecting off the sand. Caleb turned to her, his expression softening. "You know, you didn't just defend the homestead. You changed it, made it ours. And I don't just mean the walls or the traps. You made it a home." Alina looked into the fire, her mind reflecting on the past months. Years of wandering, surviving, and hiding had brought her here. She had always been alone, relying only on her skills and instincts. But now she realized something profound. Survival was not enough. Life was about connection, trust, and purpose. "I never thought I could have this," she said softly. "A home, a family, people who trust me. But now I can't imagine being anywhere else." Caleb reached out, taking her hand in his. "You're part of this family now. And we'll face the future together. Whatever comes next, we'll handle it together." Alina squeezed his hand, feeling a deep, unshakable certainty. Yes, together. The following weeks were filled with preparation for the colony's future. Alina and Caleb expanded the homestead's defenses, improving water systems, energy sources, and communication arrays. The daughters continued to learn, showing remarkable aptitude for engineering and strategy. The homestead had become a hub of innovation, a testament to human resilience and ingenuity. Word of their survival spread through the colony. Other settlers began seeking advice, learning techniques, and sharing knowledge. Alina found herself at the center of a small network of collaboration, her skills respected and valued. For the first time, she felt a sense of purpose beyond mere survival, a sense of belonging, contribution, and pride. One evening, as the family sat outside under the stars, Mina whispered, "Do you think the Varkans will come back?" Alina smiled, brushing sand from her sleeves. "Maybe, but it doesn't matter. Humans adapt, humans learn, and we'll be ready, always." Leela looked up at the stars. "We're safe because of you." Alina knelt, taking both girls' hands in hers. "No, we're safe because of all of us. Because we work together, trust each other, and never give up. That's what humans do best." Caleb wrapped an arm around Alina, pulling her close. "And we'll keep doing it, every day, together." The twins nestled between them, their small hands clutching theirs, and for the first time, Alina felt complete. She had survived alone for years, but now she had something far more important: family, purpose, and hope. The desert wind swept across the dunes, carrying the scent of sand, metal, and distant storms. The stars above seemed brighter, reflecting the warmth and strength of those who had fought together. Alina Maris, once an outcast wandering between planets, had found her place. She was no longer alone. She was part of something greater, something human, enduring, and unstoppable. And under the twin moons of Solara 9, with the desert stretching endlessly around them, she knew this was only the beginning. There would be challenges, storms, and enemies in the future, but they would face them together as a family. Together, humans would survive, thrive, and build a future no alien threat could destroy. The homestead, once a simple shelter, now stood as a beacon of ingenuity, courage, and hope. It was proof that humanity, even on the harshest worlds, could adapt, endure, and flourish. Alina gazed out across the desert, the moonlight reflecting in her eyes. She thought of the journeys she had taken, the dangers she had faced, and the solitude she had endured. And now she thought of Caleb, the daughters, and the home they had built together. She smiled, a quiet, confident smile. The stars above seemed to shine just a little brighter, as if acknowledging the triumph of humans over adversity. No matter what came next, she knew one thing: humanity's strength was not in weapons or numbers, but in courage, intelligence, and the connections that bound them together. And here, in the heart of Solara 9, they had proven it. Alina turned to Caleb, then to the girls, and for the first time in her life she felt completely at peace. They were safe together and ready for whatever horizons awaited them. And with that, she allowed herself to imagine the future, a future filled with hope, ingenuity, love, and family. The twin moons glowed over the dunes, a silent witness to the triumph of humans and the beginning of a new chapter.